we're going to jump right into introduction to programming and JavaScript role. Now, we've talked about, in my last video, we gave an overview of what programming is all about. In this one, we're going to be straight and direct to the point, and we're focusing more on JavaScript. So what is programming? In my last video, I talked about programming being a way, like telling a computer what to do in a certain language. That's all programming is. And we're going to see what we mean by that. Like, what do we mean when we say telling a computer what to do? Okay? But that's it. And we're going to talk about JavaScript and the web development ecosystem. Sorry about that. So what is programming? Like I said, it's telling a computer what to do. That's it. Like telling a computer what to do. It's no more. That's the simplest definition you would get. Okay. I'm going to create another file here just so I can write. So programming is telling a computer what to do. Now, the world of programming languages. If you've ever been around tech people, they like to brag a lot about the programming languages that they use. Some say, oh, I do Java, or I do C++, or I do Ruby, or I do Python. So like in the world of programming, there are so many languages. If you watch the previous video, I talked about the Chinese examples. So say you go to Nigeria, for instance, there are so many languages in Nigeria, right? There's about a lot of languages. Or you go to somewhere in the Middle East, there's so many dialects of a language, or there's so many languages. And you might ask, oh, why are there so many languages on Earth? That's because people are different. Why are there so many programming languages? Well, same thing. They're different. They're different for different purposes, okay? Some of these languages exist or they were built for one thing. Some were made for something very specific. And would see that in most cases, they share the same fundamental goal, which is they're used to instruct the computer, okay? Regardless of whether it's Java, C++, Go, Ruby, they are all used to tell the computer what to do. For instance, let's see a very simple example here. I'm going to write a function. I'm going to tell a computer to count from 1 to 10. Okay, I'm going to ask the computer to count from 1 to 10. So don't focus on what I'm writing, just look at the output. So I'm going to write this in JavaScript. So I'm going to tell you to just count from 1 to 10. That's what I'm going to tell the computer what to do. Remember, programming is telling the computer what to do. So in order for me to do this, I'll just write a bunch of, stuff. And then I'll ask the computer to just print this out. And I'll go ahead and just, run this. And you can see here that the computer prints the number 1 to 10. And this is a JavaScript language. I could also tell a child in English and say, hey, count 1 to 10. And they'll go ahead and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10. I could say the same thing in French. I could say the same thing in Yoruba. I could say the same thing in Igbo. I could say the same thing in Spanish. I could say the same thing. It's just different language. I just said the same thing in JavaScript. And let's say it in another language. Let's say this in Python. Okay. So let's say count py. So all I just need to say is for I in range of 1 to 11. And let's just print this. Sorry about this. And let's run this code with Python. Let's add a new line here so that it's print them all on a new line. You can see here I did the same thing in Python, where I also print 1 to 10. And if I put this side by side, I'm going to put this side by side, and this is one language, this is another language. And let's add more complexity to it. Let's add another one in Ruby. And all we're going to do Let's just call that again. And you can see here that it also prints, this. I'm just going to add one to this. So it's printed properly. So you can see here, I did the same thing. So there's the same instruction in Python. Here's the same instruction. So don't focus on all the syntax. Just focus on the outputs. Here is it in Ruby. Here is it in Python. Here is it in JavaScript. And let's do one more in any language. Let's pick Golang. So let's do this in Go, and let's see how we can do this. So I'm going to start at 1 here and do this. And now let's run this Go program. And you can see the same thing. So here I have asked the computer to do the same thing in multiple languages, in JavaScript, in Go, in Ruby, and in Python. So at the end of the day, a programming language is just used to instruct a computer on what to do. So whether it's Java, Ruby, or any of these languages we've written, they share the same goal, which is they're used to instruct a computer. Now, just like you wouldn't go to, you wouldn't go to a country, say Spain, and speak French hoping people would understand you, certain languages are also suited for certain tasks. JavaScript, for some instance, for some reason, has been able to, dominate the web. Okay, when you think about web programming languages, JavaScript comes first. So why is this that JavaScript comes first? The reason is because of how JavaScript positions itself right from time. I won't go into details, but I would say one of the reasons why I'd encourage you to learn JavaScript, or when you're deciding on the language to learn, is to look at the language trend. So if you come here and you say GitHub language trends, and you come over here, you would see the most popular languages on GitHub. Right here, you can see that the most popular language right here is JavaScript, followed by Java. Then you have Python, and you have PHP, and then you have Ruby. So when you're deciding to learn a language, for instance, if I go learn a language like Fortran, you can see how bottom it is here, or Elixir. You want to learn a language, especially when you're a beginner. So if your goal is to get hired, you want to learn a very popular language. A language that is popular has a lot of advantages. One, it has a bigger community. It also has a bigger community. So there's a lot of advantages from that. If you need help, there are a lot of people to help you. Like the JavaScript community is bigger than, say, the Rackets community, right? So because a lot of people program in this language. The other reason you want to learn JavaScript is that it's a versatile language. JavaScript can be used for almost all kinds of applications. You can use JavaScript to build web applications. You can use JavaScript to build mobile applications. You can use JavaScript to build, IoT type applications. So it's a very versatile language. It's almost everywhere. So that's one of the reasons why I also encourage you to learn, JavaScript. It's a language that can be used anywhere. So it's a good investment and as a good start. It's not hard to learn. It takes a bit of time getting used to, but investing in language like JavaScript can go a long way. Again, picking a language because of its popularity helps in this field, because you're sure that if you invest in JavaScript, you would most likely get a job, right? You'd most likely get an opportunity than, say, if you go invest in a language like Julia because it's cool. But as a beginner, I wouldn't recommend that. You want to get started with something that's popular, and then later, once you become good, you could then go learn something else. Now you might ask, where is this data from? Now this data is from GitHub. GitHub is where most programmers go and share their stuff. Think of it as I don't know what the perfect description would be, but it's like the Netflix of code, if you get what I mean. It's like programmers just go there and dump their stuff and share their stuff. A lot of the amazing projects are always, found right there. So we've talked about why JavaScript, the fact that it's everywhere, right? Where's JavaScript used? Mobile applications, web applications, embedded devices, TVs. Roku TVs are all built in JavaScript, for instance. Some of the interfaces, like some mobile apps as well. Everything that runs on this page you see right now is all JavaScript. This editor you see here is all JavaScript. You must have heard of TypeScript. Don't worry about that. We'll focus on JavaScript. So if you're wondering what the hell is TypeScript, TypeScript is just a dialect of JavaScript. I'm putting it that way so it's easier for you to get. So it's just a dialect. But if you understand JavaScript, the fundamentals, when we do a TypeScript tutorial, you're ease in easily. Okay, cool. So let's talk about, how do you get started in writing all of this amazing code? So I'll say the first thing you need to do is, this is an exercise for you, download VS Code. So if you're on a Windows or on a Mac, come here and select the operating system you run. If you're on a Windows, download this. If you're on a Linux or Unix distro, download this. If you're on a Mac, download this. So you want to download Visual Studio Code. What is Visual Studio Code? Think of it as where you write your instructions. Okay, all of these instructions. So this software I'm using is Visual Studio Code. It's like a notebook, but like for telling your computer what to do. So you write your instructions here, right? And that's the first thing you need is Visual Studio Code. So download this. Let me know in the comment section if you have issues with installing this software. But just feel free to watch other videos on how to install this. It should be pretty easy. It's like installing any other software. So that's the first thing. The next thing you want to do is download Node.js and then come to here as well and select your operating system and download and install Node.js. Now, once you do these two things, let me know if you run into any issues in the comment sections, but feel free to Google other videos on this. So download Visual Studio Code, download Node.js, and when you're done with this, come to Visual Studio Code, click on Terminal, New Terminal. Now, after you're done installing Node, just come here and type node-v. If you see a number out, if it printed any number, it doesn't have to be this exact number. Give yourself a round of applause because you did well. That's your first step in getting started as a programmer. You've got Node set up, you've got VS Code set up, and you're able to see this. Kudos. And let's go back to our guide. So, and that means you're done. So kudos, you're about to launch your career as a software developer. So if you're able to do those two things, I'd say you figured it out. And then we would look into JavaScript code. So this is an example JavaScript code that tells a computer what to do. Don't worry about all of this, but this is what the code looks like. Okay, you might say, well, why is it all colored, and does this color means a thing? What is I? What is I++? Don't worry about that. In the next module, we'll do a deep dive into what all of this means. But for now, just ignore all of this. It's fancy, it's colorful. It does not have to be colorful. It doesn't have to be this way. Okay, but at least by staring at this, you get familiar with all this, and we're going to walk you through every single part, in getting started with all of this. So thank you again for watching this video, and please share, like, and subscribe if you haven't done so. But the overall here is that JavaScript is a versatile language, is a popular language. Investing in it is much more better than investing in a language that's not so popular. There's so many things you can do with JavaScript. Machine learning, building mobile apps, building games, building web apps. It's a versatile language, right? And make sure you get your VS Code and Node.js downloaded. And once you've done this, I'd say, and you're able to type this, and you see this output, amazing. So I'm going to stop here and say thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye now.